So the pilot action titled The Future for Lagging Regions, it's one of the 6 pilot actions, as we've learned already today. They are all together implementing the renewed territorial agenda. Our pilot action started last December when the agenda was adopted by the ministers, and it will run until 2023. And with this conference today, we will launch the implementation phase of our pilot action. We have several focus areas within our action. The first one is about maintaining quality of life in rural and challenged areas. But it's also about strengthening local and regional entities that themselves ensure development and public services. It's also about building on integrated territorial development concepts or regional strategies through future-oriented approaches. And lastly, it's also about promoting European exchange between the participating regions and transfer of results to national and European levels. I have a couple of slides. I'm wondering if they are visible. Thank you, Fred. So how does all this fit into the territorial agenda? Well, the aim of all pilots is basically to demonstrate and test and develop practices which contribute to achieving the territorial agenda priorities. I have listed, as you can see in the chart, there are the 6 priorities within the 2 overarching aims, Just Europe and Green Europe. Our pilot action will be focusing on the first priority, which is spatially balanced development in Europe. And it will also be contributing to priority 2 of the TA, less inequalities between places in Europe. It is about translating the sometimes abstract priorities into regional practice, and also to offer inspiration and examples how these priorities can be operationalized. Other pilots, we will hear more about them in the afternoon. They focus, for example, on small places or on towns or functional regions, while we have decided to give special focus to rural areas that are facing challenges. In order to achieve this balanced development and structures for balanced development across Europe, we believe that rural areas and lagging regions may play an important role and deserve the special attention. Next slide, please. So what are the guiding questions of our pilot actions? The first one is about how spatial strategies can be put into force to then shape local perspectives for lagging regions. And what we mean here is that regions in Europe can usually build on regional strategies for territorial development. They exist and they take into account challenges and opportunities, highlighting what needs to be done. Many of these strategies are already well aligned with the goals and the priorities of the territorial agenda. But when it comes to implementing these strategies, challenges arise, partnerships need to be established, political actors and citizens to be involved, and there are many learning points that European regions can take from one another. The second guiding question is about how regional planning measures can be incorporated into sectoral planning to sustain the implementation of relevant measures. And this takes up the concept of cross-sectoral working. An integrated development strategy may include actions in the field of mobility, health, education, and digitalization. But in order to achieve and sustain the implementation of measures relevant for regional development, the cooperation across sectors is crucial. And this is the second guiding questions leading our activities. Next slide, please. Who's taking part in the pilot action? We have built a European partnership with participants from 4 countries. Those are France, Austria, Portugal, and Germany. We have also DG Regio and ESPON within the partnership. And in order to achieve this translation of the TA priorities on the ground, we put a particular emphasis on compiling this multi-level partnership with the direct involvement of 6 local and regional actors that are then each supported by their national authorities and European actors. We have 6 rural areas. You will get to know them yourselves. They are all affected by demographic changes one way or another. Next slide, please. And how can these participating regions be characterized? They are quite dispersed, as I mentioned. All of the regions have a lower population density, but there's still quite a wide range between, for example, Alentejo in Portugal with 22 inhabitants per square kilometer and Görlitz in Germany with 120 inhabitants per square kilometer. Looking at the regions, the Rostock region in the north of Germany, they're facing diverging developments. While there's population growth in and around the city of Rostock, there's decline in the rural areas. The district of Schleswig-Flensburg at the German border to Denmark is currently experiencing slightly increasing numbers, while in the long-term decline is expected. There's growth and shrinking side by side on a small scale in the area. The Görlitz district in Germany as well is bordering Poland and Czech Republic. They're facing demographic changes and shrinking population. It's a dispersely structured rural area. Alentejo in Portugal is a very large area. It's one of the most sparsely populated areas in the country, and it's also characterized by loss of inhabitants and noticeable demographic changes. Wallgau region, with around 40,000 inhabitants, is characterized by a heterogeneous settlement structure and has both industrial areas and small-scale village structure. And finally, the Grand Est region in France is a large area as well, with small-scale settlement structures. Among the more than 5,000 municipalities, only few of them have more than 20,000 inhabitants. Next slide, please. What are the challenges? What are the joint challenges? Well, the demographic changes are bringing territorial challenges in the supply of equipment and services. There is an increasing gap regarding the access to range of services that then leads to a decline in the attractiveness and the quality of life in some rural areas. The challenges of the involved regions center around securing and further developing services of general interest in rural areas, as well as managing structural changes. Functional cooperation with the neighboring towns is an issue as well. Next slide, please. I have listed a couple of approaches that will be taken by the regions, while they will be giving you more insight into this. These approaches, they include the improvement of capacities to act in small municipalities. It's also about case studies to deliver public services more effectively. It's about participation approaches with citizens, civil society, and sectoral planning actors. It's about digital tools for mobility, local supply, or medical care. Next slide, please. With this last slide, I'm showing you an overview of the focus area of each region. Most regions, as you can see in the first column on the left, will be working with the application of digital tools. 5 out of 6 regions will be working in that field. Strategy building in local communities through participative approaches will be a focus area in at least 2 of the regions. Intermunicipal cooperation, evaluation, and improvement of regional governance structures is key to 4 of the regions involved. And finally, evaluations of public strategies aimed at the support of local centers and the provision of services will be carried out in 3 regions. In addition to the implementation activities, all regions will take part in the transfer activities at regional level. This is related to, for example, the interlinking of regional and sectoral planning. In addition, we are planning upscaling activities where the national and European partners that are involved in the partnership will be of special importance. These activities include the transfer of results to policies, plans, and programs, as well as raising awareness of the concerns of lagging regions on all levels. And with this overview, I'm handing back to Martin Reins. Thanks very much.